Alright, let's get this turbo out of here. So, coolant lines first. Now, getting the coolant, leave radiator cap on. So when you crack these, it'll draw air back through, help drain your lines. And we're going to go ahead and take the coolant lines off the 7th injector, fuel line, air line, and get that out of our way as well. So we're getting the coolant lines off the 7th injector. If you get them loose, just tap them, they'll come right off. They're just wedged in there. Then we need 9/16ths and 11/16ths. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. Just gonna hook those mounts in the holes with rocker cover there to get them out of the way. Lift that power cord up out of the clips to there and set it up out of your way. Here's your bolts. Alright, these will have to move at some point, but we're not there yet. I don't think I can get this in here. This AC line in the way. We'll try it. That worked. Alright. And then we have a few more to coolant supply line. Again, you have more of these little washers on there. They're stuck usually to rubber, so you want to make sure you don't lose those. And on this end, they're stacked. You have 2 lines, 2 banjos on a through bolt. A whole handful of washers there, so we'll put that together. One of my favorite tool purchases is a Harbor Freight impact ratchet. It's not incredibly strong, but you can sure stuff it in some holes. I know it's Harbor Freight. I know it wasn't very expensive, but for I believe it was $80. It is well worth every penny. Alright, you'll pop those little lines out of there. They're just held in by a single retaining bolt and a, I don't know if you call it an O-ring or not, but it's sort of a D-shaped O-ring. It's not your standard Caterpillar D-rings, they're much thicker than those, but they're similar in construction. Okay, so we're back. While I had you on pause there, I set up a bench to set this turbo on once I get it free from the truck. You got the diffuser off, and we got 4 bolts, and it should be out. It's rather astounding that I haven't broken any bolts yet. Whoever took this apart last time had the sense to put it back together with copious amounts of anti-seize. All right, diffuser's loose. Tap that with a hammer, it should be off of it. And when I say tamp, I mean beat the crap out of it with a big hammer. There she goes. Okay, let's finish getting this turbo out of here. Cut these two top bolts loose. It actually releases some tension on these back two. And I don't like to cheat. I'll take my ratchet, give it one manual click, and I can usually get it back on that bolt. You get an extra pull on it to get that bolt broke loose. Yep. But this guy's in my way, so we'll set it up here out of the way. And we'll do this again. And we'll rinse, lather, repeat until we get it broke loose. There she is. Now, these don't need to come out all the way. The slots on this turbo, or the holes in this turbo are slotted. So all I gotta do is get them loose. 3 or 4 turns. Pull these bolts out of the way. When this comes off, it's going to want to come down. That diffuser's in the way. They come off anyway, so. Now, it just separated. There's your diffuser. We'll set that over here on that same bench. Down underneath here, you have the oil return line. It's an O-ring into a block. That's it. We'll pull this direction straight off, some wiggling and jammering, and it should come loose. Got to make sure you get both halves of that gasket. A little more on that in just a minute. Okay, turbo's out. All right. So let's. Next step is the turbo's out. We'll get the. Let's see. Probably gonna go ahead and pull this adapter off the bellows. That'll give us a little more room to get the EGR valve, the U-pipe, that bellows down there, out. And that'll also make it easier to get the EGR cooler out as well. So then we'll take a second. I'll set that back here and have the truck out the way. Alright. So, much more room. Now we'll go ahead and we'll get the U-pipe out. Work on the EGR cooler, or sorry, EGR valve, and then probably move on to this stuff over here next. Work this out. All right. Cut that. Uh-oh, safety guy's here.
Grinding with no glass. Jeez!
Remember, YouTube, always make sure you wear your safety specs. Otherwise, that guy will show up and you'll get screwed. See ya. Make sure you wear your safety squints, because this is stainless steel, and it will be a mess in your eye. Alright, when you're cutting bolts like that, you gotta be careful. Because this was sitting in there, about like that. You don't want to nick these bellows. They don't usually fail, and they're very expensive. This pipe is probably all at $200. So you don't really want to risk nicking those. They don't, like I said, they don't fail, and you know, every penny saves a penny earned, even if it's not my pennies. Oh, yeah, I meant to talk to you about this turbo gasket. Actually, it's a spacer, but it's a orifice. It goes inside the gasket like this, and over time, with this being compressed, you have the heat and cold cycles, and this stresses and breaks and cracks, and it's fine until you take the turbo loose. But once you do that, then one piece will fall out, and ordinarily you'll find one of them is jammed into the turbocharger inlet from the exhaust manifold. And if you don't get that out of the turbo before you put the turbo back on, well, you can guess what happens. Your turbo goes clang, clang, boom, and you're buying a turbo. In this particular application, it's a whole set turbo, available only through Volvo dealers, and it's about $3,800 with a $1,000 core, and that won't be a good core, so they won't give you your core back. So you want to make sure you get that piece out of there. It's very expensive, very, very expensive mistake. All right. So I think what we'll do, like I said, we'll go through taking the stuff over here apart. We'll leave that for later. Those bolts never come out easily, and you'll feel better about your progress if you get something done quickly. So we'll get this done. We'll get the cooler out of the way. Get the cooler stands out, and then we'll tackle the exhaust manifold and the EGR valve. All right. So we need wire cutters, screwdrivers, some wrenches. We'll make it up as we go. Tell somebody at one point to replace the EGR Venturi here. This is what allows you to measure the flow rate through the EGR cooler. That's how the engine ECU determines EGR mass flow. Make sure it's cooling it properly and you get enough volume through the engine to get your emissions down where the EPA wants them. Alright, so we get a new engine harness. We do not use the adapter anymore, which is a good thing. Boy, I think a pain in the butt. All right. Of course, we put that on the wrong spot. All right. Grab a 12mm socket. I'm going to get this retainer bolt. There's a bolt and a sheet metal clip that holds coolant pipes in. I'm gonna get this guy here. This guy here. This guy here. We gotta switch over to a 12mm swivel socket on a 3/8 air ratchet. We have another one of those little retainers I was just showing you on another coolant line down underneath here. There she is. And in case you guys haven't been able to figure it out, I'm putting all my bolts into a blue little plastic Harbor Freight organizer drawer. Not organized by where they came off of, they're just in there. You do this often enough, you know where each bolt goes long before you gotta put it back in. So those clamps are still good, we'll save those. The Venturi's got one more bolt in it, right here, which you can usually get with a standard deep on an extension. That guy was cross-threaded. Not too bad. Which means the threads in the hole are all hosed up. We got 8mm or 5/16 right there. Ordinarily we use a drill and adapter on that, but I think I left that at home. There we go. And now we gotta get a rag ready. What we're gonna have to do is stuff a red rag in that hole. Otherwise, it's gonna keep dripping on us until hell freezes over. So, I'll turn you here so you can see what I'm working on a little better. Right here. I don't care how long you let it sit and drain, there's always still coolant in that tank, and it just drives you bonkers. Alright, so we're going to take one of these here red rags. We're going to make a nose picker out of it, like that. We're going to pop this guy off. I'm going to stuff that guy right up in there. And yeah, it'll act as a wick, and it'll help come out faster, and all that stuff. But get enough rag in there, it'll absorb all the volume that you have in that reservoir. And then just kind of take the rag and stuff it up over it like so. Now any drips that make it out past the rag still get caught. Stick a zip tie around it because, well, they're cheap, and my favorite guy, Kimmel Midwest, Mr. Overstock, makes and sells more every day. There we go. Now that won't leak all over our hands. And now you get a little O-ring in there, no little D-rings I was talking about that holds this guy in, and, or keeps it sealed rather. Set that back here on the fender of the truck. This guy here's got a hose that goes down here forever, so we'll leave that in place. We'll just go ahead and pull the tube out. Like so. That O-ring stayed in there as well. Can hook it over there so it doesn't flop over and smack you. Alright, we got two 10mm bolts up there. Start putting the tools away again. I got too many out. Don't like tools laying around. It just drives me absolutely batshit insane. You know, one day I'll get the idea and I'll go buy stock in 3M, man. 3M and Pan do it for these doggone zip ties. Alright, so you got these little clips. Hold these coolant lines on. Alright, that one came off. Didn't break. Very simple. Usually they'll break right here. If they break there, as the coolant builds pressure, hose will pop out because that will be able to retain it. And your driver will call you all pissed off because he lost his coolant. In any case, we'll get this guy out of here. Then you just lift up straight, give a twisting action, and she comes right out. I ain't lose coolant again. But just a few drips here, a few drips there, we'll stick that up there. No antifreeze on the phone. Get a rag, we'll wipe that up. Well, these rags are absolutely, Cintas, man. They are horrible when it comes to getting clean rags. It's like pulling teeth with those people. I don't think they know the meaning of the word clean. I think they think soaked in solvent means clean. No, they're dead wrong. Alright, so we're going to look down inside this Venturi. And this is pretty clean, but that coating in there, that's something you can't clean. If you have soot stuck in there, you know, your EGR differential pressure is not reading properly, you used to be able to take that off, stick a piece of baling wire or whatever in there and clean that out. It's brake cleaner, it's carb cleaner, and you're good to go. But they had an issue with condensation forming inside the Venturi here, and so it would stick to it, and that would warm up eventually, and it would cook and stick on and plug everything up. So they came up with this mastic on the outside here that helps insulate it, and then this black coating on the inside that I'm not real sure what that is, but it's supposed to help out with the condensation and the soot buildup. On the newer trucks, I believe 13 and newer, definitely 14, this whole thing is wrapped in a canvas insulation as well. So they're making strides to help make this more durable and less of a breakdown point. But if this plugs up begins to read in properly, then I believe the EGR cooler is bad, and it won't, or the EGR valve itself is bad, and it won't operate either one of those properly. You won't be able to do a regen. Then your driver will be stuck down the road with low EGR flow and high soot level, and he'll be in a level 2 or level 3 or whatever D-rate, and he won't be able to move. So that's always a bad thing. Now, as I was standing here talking to you, I looked inside here, and there is a significant amount of soot built up in here that certainly appears to be caused by a coolant leak in the EGR cooler. Wow, that's very wow. So let me get a borescope out. Yeah, I know. I told you I don't like Snap-on because they're expensive, and they are. But when you need a tool, and they're there, and they have it, you're going to be happy you got it. Alright, so all that mass you see in that picture right there, that's soot. And what usually causes that to condense there is antifreeze. Antifreeze leaking from the EGR cooler. And so there's your failure mode. So at some point, we're going to replace that EGR cooler before we put this back together. And that's a $1,300 part. Alright. So, when you get that soot built up with the coolant in this elbow here, I'm going to go ahead and pull these clamps, pull that out. Let's take a borescope in the actual cooler and see what the heck is going on. If we can learn anything new. I am stunned I did not have an EGR low flow code in the ECU for this, because that is completely plugged. That's plugged to the point where I can't even clean that. Even if I could, it wouldn't matter, because it's not plugged because it's, just fun to get plugged up. It's plugged because coolant leaked in there and allowed the soot to condense and collect. And that's the cause. That's the failure mode. So, alright, we'll finish getting her apart and get that EGR cooler out. We'll take more pictures of it. No, we don't want to do that yet. I want to take this clamp here off first. This pipe right here is a dilly. It does not ever want to come off. Its favorite pastime is to bite you. But, fortunately, I get paid to win. Helps them make money, helps us retain them, and they make money, we make money, they make money, they're happy, and they make more money, and we make more money. So, welcome to trucking. Alright. Now, no matter how hard we try, how hard I try, I'm going to get just clobbered with antifreeze when I pull this off. So we've got 4 more bolts to go. They're not the easiest places to get them, but they're not terrible either. I gotta pull the coolant filter here, so I gotta get a pan and put down there. So I'll be right back with that pan. All right, so it took a minute there to clean up. And all right, so there's 2 bolts on the bottom of this pipe that connect it to the lower radiator hose, and we're gonna try to get them from down here, which is going to prove to be a task, but not the worst thing we've ever accomplished. All right, 1 down, 1 to go, and another blasted zip tie. There we go. That's clear. Now we got to work out these 2 bolts, but to get to those, I got to get this cooler out of the way. Let me get those 2 guys out. Got 2 jam nuts. One here. One here. And then handy dandy homemade tool, which is just a long Allen wrench. The socket stuck on the end of it. It really isn't that cool. And that one's gonna fight me pretty good. There she goes. All right. Flip these guys back here out of the way. I generally take and just bend this guy nice and flat. These guys come off. Some of you put in, and then out she comes. You get 1 on the ring. Well, 2 of them actually, but only 1's going to give up and come out. All right. Now there's 2 bolts underneath these stands. You can't see, you can feel them. It's about the extent of it. Okay, this one here has a retainer bolt for a dog clamp in it, so we'll get this one out first, and we'll change our tooling and get that dog clamp. The cool leak we're experiencing is right down there. Take a break from the air tools for a second here. Well, we got to pull the fan shroud support off. Although my metric ratchet wrench here isn't so healthy, and I keep forgetting to go exchange it. It's Craftsman, it's lifetime warranty, but I keep forgetting to go down there and do it. Which is kind of sad, because I got one of my coworkers' half-inch ratchets I got to take down there when I go. I live 7 miles from this Craftsman store, and he never gets over there, so I'm trying to be helpful. Oh, and I forgot about a hose clamp. Right there. There she is. Get the alien out of the way. And now, because this is dripping a little bit of coolant past the thermostat almost continuously until that upper hose is empty. Stuff a rag in there. It has to keep the drips to a minimum. There we go. Now, because we're taking this cover right here off, we have to go ahead and get the exhaust manifolds out of the way. There's a bolt right about here. I don't think you can get a jar valve on. So I suppose we'll have to fight with that. Stick this guy in here so it'll quit hanging down on our way. Alright, break time. Alright. So, what we've done is drop the ratchet, but we've taken out 2 bottom bolts. Normally you gotta put heat on these back bosses to get these out because they just won't come out. They usually twist off and break inside there, on this back one back here especially. However, I'm stunned that all of these have come loose without any heat, including these top 2, but that's kind of a necessity because you had to get them loose because back here is an oil supply line you have to get off, and it is a beast to get off of there. So we got a new tool we're going to try out and see how it works. But the idea is the back is off just as far as you can get it, give you some room where that line clears the underside of his head back there. So let's get that tool out and see what we can accomplish here. I'm not really sure where I put it. Being a brand new tool and all. There it is. So here's the tool. I got a wrench on a stick. The idea is you put your ratchet in here and you work this guy loose. We'll see how it goes, I guess. Take that off for now, I suppose. Get the airline through the AFI system out of the way. There we go. Put our flashlight in our mouth, because that's where it belongs. Let's see how we do. Well, that worked out pretty well. I've never gotten that lucky on one of these EGR oil lines. Wonder what idiot Volvo engineer thought of this. Tell you what, I'm going to stubby ratchet. Well, I really need ratchet for just grip. There it is. Well, folks, the very expensive Volvo tool, part number 888-00217, works. So now we have the pleasure of just making the bottom two lines, which for some reason they're on a blank as to what size those are. It's apparently bigger than 17 millimeters. Try to get this vent line off. That's not the right one either. Here is a 19. That fits it, but in a bad location. Well, that worked for that. 19 millimeter flare nut wrench. So we're going to grab a stubby 3/4. Just finish working that out of there. vent line to deal with. So vent line here. $15 is apparently not the correct size. $14 feels good. Pick up that down there. That should give us the requisite room. And there's an electrical connector for that as well. Buried back on the back of that head. Okay. Well, harness is unplugged now. Okay, so with the E-jet all out, got it unplugged, got it out of the way. We got a line here to take care of, this one here, and that one right there. This one here as well. And you have all the bolts along there, and the manifold itself. I'll come right back to you and we got those off. Alright, don't get confused. There's supposed to be 2 O-rings on this pipe. One behind the flare, and one in front of it. If you screw up and don't put that second one on, it will be able to push out and leak. You've got to ensure you have that second O-ring in there. And then the other end of this, when you put it in and take it out of the block, you can get caught and damage these O-rings. Or damage the boss on the oil filter housing as well. Alright, pull these bolts out of this cover. And there is evidence of our coolant leak. Alright, now there's one bolt underneath the oil filter housing there. You have to get out before you go any further. Alright, right below here. Alright, so there's two major hurdles. Right here you have a compressed ring. It's literally held on by putting a tool at the other end of this cover and pushing it this direction to compress that O-ring. And then you have a tube on the other end down there that has to come out as the cover comes off. So there's a couple little hiccups. You know, that one right down there in the middle of the screen there, that's the one. Those two present the biggest issue, but she'll come off all right. Alright, okay, so right here is where our coolant leak was at. And you can see all the excess rust, you can tell there was leakage. This is the issue. Well, this is where it was. The issue is actually in the cover, in the design of the cover, which I'll show you here in just a minute.
So and here's the why it failed and started leaking. See, you get a little bit of moisture in there, and it corrodes that aluminum housing, and then it swells, strips the O-ring, pushes it out, and then you get a coolant leak. Simple as that. It's bad twisted materials, it's all it took. So now we'll take out the oil cooler itself. There's 4 bolts, one there, one there, one down there, one down there. There's a few cover bolts in there too. Get the cover off, get the oil cooler out, slap it onto a new cover with a new gasket, and reinstall.